Hello Gemini friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my June 2020 Astrology Gemini Must Knows. We have Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, 2 eclipses, 2 out of 3 eclipses, and the second pass of the Jupiter-Pluto boom that is part of the whole coronavirus and systems breakdown all this month. So we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about some general things, but also a lot of things very specific for Geminis and how you're likely to experience this energy, and for which of you some things might be a little bit more intense because of some exact passes and connections. Okay, so this month, because it's covered in Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, Mercury rules computers, devices, communication, and cars and bikes and all of that, plus all the Venus stuff, which is love and relationships and money and relationship to money and, self-esteem and design projects. So all of this has been taking a tilt to the backward and inward. That's what retrogrades do. They bring in ideas from the past, things you've always wanted to do, things you've always wanted to get done. And it is pretty clear to do things like that as long as it honors the guidelines. The guidelines are, is it easy to fix? Is it flexible? If you change your mind or something changes, will it be easy to get out of it? Are you seeing clearly? And are the decisions that you're making, does it matter if you're seeing clearly because they're easily fixable? You see what I mean? So, you can have a lot of freedom during this time of the retrogrades, just knowing that things are probably going to change. You might not be seeing all the pieces. So as long as it has that flexibility and care that you put into it, knowing that things are going to change, then, it's going to make things a little bit easier. So June 2nd, let's start our little grid here. June 2nd, we start Mercury shadow period and goes retrograde on the 17th or 18th, is retrograde through July 12th. The post-shadow period goes to July 26th. So this energy of things going inward and backward and kind of lending it more towards short-term ventures and agreements is going to be for all of June and July essentially, but it gets a little bit lighter the more into July you get. And that retrograde is in Cancer. So that's going to bring a lot of emotion to the logical, active, busy, overthinking Gemini. Okay, so just kind of expect that your thinking is going to be interfered with either your strong emotions, for better and worse, or the emotions of those around you, or the general climate of high emotion. There's going to be added to your thinking profile. And those are energies that don't mix really well. So it could be a little bit overstimulating and you might have to do, just kind of keep your center a little more. And plus, because all of these planets are in Gemini, which I'll show you when we look at the charts, it's going to be very difficult for you to stay grounded this month. So any grounding practices that you can do with breathing, remembering your breath, setting an alarm to remember your breathing, bare feet on the earth, meditation, eating grounding foods, anything that will help you to stay in your body more and less distracted. Taking device breaks. This is something else. Geminis get scattered already because you're thinking and gathering information. So something like even just shutting your phone completely off for a couple of hours during the day or longer if you can muster it, staying away from too much information, just kind of like getting some breaks involved in the way that information moves through you, into you, and out of you, okay? Very big time, this June 5th lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Sagittarius. This is opposing your sign, and this is the beginning of the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle. This is huge for you because massive change is going to come for Geminis for the rest of 2020 through all of 2021 with this eclipse cycle. And it's going to be very, very busy. So this eclipse will be felt by everybody, but those of you in the middle degree spectrum, so that's basically like the June 1st through June 10th, especially, and the closer you are to June 5th, this will be affecting you more right on. So expect more intensity, for better or worse, in that middle degree spectrum, unless you have other Gemini placements that you don't know about, which I always highly recommend. You look for a free birth chart online, look at the Gemini symbol. I'll show it to you when we look at the charts. And then you might have a bunch of planets in Gemini at different degrees. And then you can use this information more to see if you're having these exact hits. Because when things hit in a mathematical way, they're more personally tied to you than just things kind of floating around in the ethers, not connecting in with your chart personally. So then we've got this June 20th or 21st, new moon solar eclipse at 0 degrees of Cancer. And this again is going to bring a lot of emotion. This is going to bring a lot of new beginnings in home, family, things with ancestry, if you're looking for a parent or a relative, genetic findings as far as health things, anything having to do with real estate or your family. There's a lot of new beginnings. And sometimes new beginnings are disguised with major endings. So it's going to be a very transformational month, definitely one of the most intense of the year because of everything that's going on. Okay, then we have Venus going direct on June 24th or 25th, depending on your time zone. And that shadow period lasts through July 29th. So that kind of thing with your Venus goggles, if you haven't watched my May report, then watch that so you can understand about the Venus goggles that come on and interfere with everything in love, beauty, money, design, experience. Those Venus goggles start to come off around the 24th or 25th, but it takes until July 29th for you to be able to see really clearly again. And by that time, Mars pre-shadow retrograde is going to begin. But that's okay. If you need to do something important or bust through some launches or have clarity about some decisions, that time getting towards the end, like the latter part of July into the beginning of August, is going to be the last kind of point before we're back deep in the retrogrades again. I mean, we're still going to be in the retrograde shadow periods the whole time, but that's the most open than we'll have for a while. And of course, this is happening between 21 and 5 degrees of Gemini. So this is the Venus retrograde is extra, bringing more of the Venus retrograde types of things directly to you. And I have so many resources on Venus retrograde. If you search for Annie Botticelli Venus retrograde, I have, you can't even imagine. And I went into a lot of it in recent months too. So check out the May report to understand this better. But it's definitely ruling a lot of areas of life. So you'll want to know about that. June 30th, we have the second of 3 passes of Jupiter and Pluto getting together in the sky. They're outer planets. They don't get together very often. April 4th was the first. June 30th was the second. November 12th will be the last. And if you watched my video on how the astrology explains the coronavirus and the systems breaking down, this is one of the big pieces here. The last time the market crashed in 2008, with the housing and the lending markets crashed, Pluto had gotten into Capricorn and Jupiter went into Capricorn. Okay, so that was like the big boom. Then they get together again in the beginning of April, and we had, in March, April, the big boom. So there's more booming to go on. This is a cycle that's going to boom and then kind of wane, then boom and then kind of wane, and then boom again. So definitely watch that video if you search for Annie Botticelli coronavirus, because it's very long, very detailed, and it has some things that may actually blow your mind. So I would definitely watch that. But in any case, this we'll look in the chart to see where this is going to hit for you all. But it's not just bad boom. It also could be good boom. Okay? So anything having to do with building and restructuring and creating new systems. And the big question that the universe is making us ask ourselves is, are you sustainable? Are your relationships sustainable? And these retrogrades are also asking the questions, are your devices sustainable? Is your health sustainable? Your practices, your diet, your lifestyle, the way that you're living on the earth, the way that you're living, with your job, the amount you work, the amount of money you spend, all of these things, are they sustainable? And the places where they're not sustainable, everything's getting blown up. So the people that were living less sustainably are having more of an effect here. In many cases, of course, that's not 100% true, but there are lessons about sustainability that are part of the major theme of this. And there are other themes, which I talk about in the other video. But expect some intensity here, for better or worse, because this cycle that takes down and destroys can also build and gel in a big way, and major accomplishments and things out in the world and things with dads and, getting help from authority figures and becoming an authority figure in your life or in your field, rebuilding your structures, money, like all of these things can also be affected in a positive way. All right, so now let's take a look at the charts. A lot of the things I talk about will be true for all Geminis, but I'm going to show you where you're at in the spectrum so that when I differentiate out, you'll know where you are. Early is basically the Mayborn or 0 to 9 degrees. And this is also true for Gemini rising and Gemini moon. Okay, so if you watch for those as well, this is also for you. Middle Gemini, June 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. Late Gemini, basically June 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is birthdays. We're going to use the late degree chart, but we're going to talk for everybody right now. So when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point that it was at when you were born, it creates what's called a solar return. The sun, every planet in the chart represents aspects of our lives, and the sun represents our vitality. It represents our what we're passionate about, our desires, our conscious creation. And so when the sun gets together with the energy of the sun in your chart, it opens a portal for manifestation and for your desires, which is what birthday wishes are based on. So you get 10 wishes, you write them down, you say them out loud, and you feel them as if they've already come true. This is one of the biggest points of manifestation. And you can also look for Annie Botticelli making wishes come true, or I think it just comes up if you do Annie making wishes come true. And I have a video on how to use astrological power periods for making wishes come true. I also have a whole book on it called Planetology, which you can also search for and pre-order now. And you can find it on my Penguin Random House author page as well. Just search for Annie Botticelli Planetology. You'll find that. But in any case, it's a very powerful time, the birthday, and it's also a very powerful time when the sun moves over your moon or rising placement, because it's like a rebirth. It's revitalizing the essence of whatever placement it's hitting. So it can be very exciting and very much be associated with the energy of a clean slate. And do know that with this cycle, this eclipse cycle that's coming up, the Sag Gemini one, you're going to burn off a crazy amount of karma in the next couple of years. And sometimes that can be intense, but that can be so exciting because after the fact, you'll look back to that time and be like, wow, that was like a really big deal, you know? So, any of a matrix that you're stuck in, a system, a way of being that you're not satisfied with, this is exactly the type of energy starting now that can just crack you right out of it, and you can emerge shiny and clean into this whole new experience. So let's see. Talk about that. All right, so let's look at, you see all these planets in Gemini? It's a lot of representation from Gemini. So all of those are connecting with your planets. Now, these are more late degree placements. You're having these are not moving as quickly. But the sun and Venus are definitely connecting in. So those of you who are basically from let's see, May 25th or 6th until around, okay, so it's to 2021. So June 11th are going to be most affected by the Venus retrograde from the perspective is that it's going back and forth over your placement. And this could be for better or worse. Wonderful things in money coming back from the past, or problems in money coming back from the past. Wonderful relationship energy being breathed, life being breathed back into your relationships, or things that were unsolved coming back. It will be more intense for those of you from the 5 to 21 degree range, because that's where it's happening, or around May 25th through around June 11th, those days around there, because it'll be circulating more there. So hopefully that's bringing positive things for you all. Okay, so let's look at where this Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is going to be. For early degree placements, the boom is pretty much in the 9th house. You might have some tilt towards the 8th house for those of you later in the early designation. Middle degree, you've got the boom in the 8th house. We'll talk about what this means in a second. Late degree, you've got that boom in the 8th house as well. So the boom we talked about with Jupiter and Pluto getting together, that being pulled back into your personal experience, all of you have this chance for this 8th house expression, which has to do with everything Pluto rules. Okay, so birth, death, transformation, rebirth, occult studies, psychological studies, breakthroughs, mysteries, solving mysteries being created and, going on a path of solving them. Very deep inner work, relationships, money, power, sex, anything having to do with close relationships of an intimate level with or without a romantic element. This also has to do with money, that's other people's money, winning money, money from the government, grants, anything having to do with inheritances, or winning the lotto, or winning sweepstakes, or having money come to you that basically wasn't your money, it was somebody else's money and now it's your money. Marriage money, like you get married and now your money is tied to somebody else, experiences like that. So expect more big boom along the lines of that 8th house relationship news, powerful relationship experiences. Births could be in there, deaths, either literal or figurative, like the endings of things, or powerful new beginnings. Those of you in the early spectrum, you also have some tilt towards the 9th house. And this has to do with, and actually, while we're at it here, middle degree, you guys have Saturn kind of dancing there, so you have 9th house influence too. In the late degrees, you don't have it as much. So early and middle degree placements, you have this energy of 9th house, but specifically with the boom, the early degree placements, like something involving international relations or travel, not that people are traveling now, but there's still news and occurrences regarding international situations or citizenship and things like that. Education, learning, teaching, taking courses, teaching as your job, things like that. International connections, even if they're virtual, things with the church, breakthroughs, optimism, all of that boom can come in that particular house for you all. Okay, so the last thing that we have to talk about, or that was on my list for us to talk about, is where the Cancer solar eclipse is going to be. So I gave you a little bit of information about the June 5th eclipse, about the opposition, and it's going to be bringing in these topics of the 9th house as well for everybody in the zodiac, the teaching, learning, international, publishing also, early degrees for the boom, publishing news and publishing things like that are more likely, but everybody in the zodiac has the publishing, the international connections, the languages, the, spiritual studies, things like that, all accentuated from the eclipse standpoint. And then the early degree placements also have this boom in that particular section. But if you want to see exactly where that June 5th eclipse is going to be for Geminis, watch my May report and I'll show you in the charts where that's going to be and send you to resources to expand your understanding. And then we're going to do the solar eclipse here, and then we're going to do the other the July lunar eclipse in the July report, which I'll have out by the end of May or June, beginning of June. Okay, so Cancer, let's see, second house. So for early degree placements, you're going to have the second house or first house, okay? And then for every day later in the sign, this is dropping back to the first house. And then the late degree is definitely in the first house. All right, so let's talk about the first house manifestations a little bit, and then we'll talk about the second house for those of you in the early degree placements. So when we have an eclipse in the first house, this has to do with a regeneration and a redoing of your image, or it can be your health or your lifestyle. So people losing radical amounts of weight, changing their body structure in major ways, like getting all muscly, changing their diet, changing their supplementation, their regimen, something having to do with health, a health crisis that then could lead to these lifestyle changes. Your image, how you move in the world. Okay, this is all Gemini placements. There's this restructuring, and this is going to be true for the whole eclipse cycle in some ways, where there's like this restructuring of how you present yourself out into the world, what you're known as. And, that can also relate to what your work is. Although sometimes people have the thing they're known for outside of work and the thing they're known for inside of work, and there's, a separation there. But this is just something that you're kind of taking on as an image. And then recognition also, like being known for things, like famous for things, not just like I'm known as a, engineer or whatever. It's like being well known for things that could come up. And then for the early degree placements, the money sector. So extra potentials for money boom can come in a very, very big way. New beginnings with income. And for the rest of you all, the foundational work to prepare for more money can also be part of this eclipse cycle for you, because this first house that's being accentuated for all Gemini placements is the foundation before you get to the second house, which is kind of starting to be introduced here with this eclipse in the for the early degree placements. But the foundational work of your self-esteem, maybe, education or things that you need to make more money, changing your money IQ, you're getting that set with this eclipse, Okay, and then if you want to have more information about how these eclipses can manifest. I have a whole video series on this. So if you go to AnnieHelpsYouTV.com or you just search for Annie Botticelli YouTube, you can go to my YouTube homepage that has the eclipse series. So early, middle, and late degree placements will look for eclipses in Aries or first house. And then, or you can just search for Annie Botticelli eclipses in Aries or first house. And then that will be showing you the house potentials. And that's a very comprehensive list of the many ways I've seen this manifest. Then the early degree placements, you can look for the eclipses in second house or Taurus. Okay, and that's going to give you even more information and a lot more information on how I've seen that manifest. All of you will also want to look for my video eclipses in Sagittarius, because that's happening, eclipses in Cancer, because that's happening, and eclipses in Capricorn, because that's happening. Okay, and then additionally, you can use the May report to see what houses the June eclipse is in, and then you can see all of those things. So we've got like a lot of aspects of life are going to be very much affected here. But in general, a super intense time of transformation for Geminis. Overstimulation, you're going to definitely have to get your grounding feet in. Birthdays, you know, a lot of information, but a lot of heavy emotion. I'm hoping that with these Gemini planets, there's going to be safety in us being able to get out and about more in a way that's safe for everybody, because a lot of times the Gemini planets mean transportation, like actually, and interacting, like social things, but it could mean travel. So in the absence of that, all of this can be online and virtual, but you know, it might open up a little bit too. So if you want to have more information like written horoscopes by me a month early, often talking about different things than we talk about in the videos, you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. All the links I'm going to give you are also in the notes underneath the video. Definitely check out all my Venus retrograde resources, also in the notes below the video, or you can search for Annie Botticelli Venus retrograde. If you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn astrology either for your personal or professional development and or because you're stir crazy and you want a project, then you can go to lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com, and see this course, my astrology course, Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery course, and all of my other courses are on there, and I have quite a few free courses, including Claiming Victory Over Viruses. So that's an ongoing course that I'm building to help people with autoimmune disease and cancers related to viruses to understand the relationship between viruses and autoimmune, and also a lot of COVID information. So you can go to AnnieHelpsYou.com to see more blogs, and definitely search for Planetology, my amazing, beautiful hardcover reference book that will help you to align with the rhythms of the universe. So you can see my Penguin Random House author page if you just search for Annie Botticelli Planetology, and you can pre-order anywhere in the world. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.